Welcome to the Founding Voices podcast, a series of conversations with humans who showed up before there was a map. I'm Perry, the founder of the Octopus movement, and I believe nonlinear thinking is not just a way of solving problems, it's a way of creating possibilities. Each week, I speak with three founding members of our global mycelium to explore who they are and why they think differently and how they're shaping a future that cannot be built in straight lines. So let's meet today's guest. Today's guest, very excited about this. Tressa Yonekawa. Oh, I practiced so hard, Tressa, to say it
You did
correctly.
perfect.
Yonekawa, an award-winning keynote speaker, a neurocognitive leadership expert. I always love that if someone is a leadership expert, a relationship strategist. Well, we will be talking about relationships for sure, and a human centered culture builder with over 25 years of experience helping leaders, teams, and organizations to improve connection, communication, and cohesion. Teresa's work is grounded in neuroscience, relational psychology, and inclusive leadership practice, helping individuals and teams navigate the unspoken dynamics that shape trust, belonging, and performance. People, she doesn't just teach communication, she reframes how we relate to ourselves and others before we ever speak a word. I love that. In a world obsessed with efficiency, optimization, and outcomes, Teresa brings us back to what actually holds systems together: clarity in communication, in connection, emotional self authority, and the courage to see and be seen. This conversation explores relationships not as soft skills, but the unseen architecture of human possibility.
Ooh.
Teresa,
Ooh, AI did a good job.
AI did a very good job.
I always say on an introduction, the only thing I do in the world is fix relationships. And
That should have been the introduction, right?
I like yours better. That's why it makes me sound important.
You are, and tell me, let's dive into the first question immediately. You're into relationships, so what is the relationship, your own relationship with your inner octopus? How
Ooh,
would
I
you
love that
describe
so much.
that?
So now very healthy, but over the course of, these, 5+ decades, it's been a struggle because trusting the inner octopus, trusting the inner truth alignment is not easy in a world that requires us to have an external, operating system, an external like motivation system in order to feel like we fit in and belong. And we're always, told to be striving for that, buying that, seeking that. So the inner octopus part comes when we can listen in and understand our own truth and alignment.
Hmm.
It's been a
That's it.
struggle.
And how does your octopus looks like? What is that inner Teresa that um, is truly you? How would you describe her in a
What
different
a
way than I just did?
what a great
Neuroscience
question.
and psychology. Forget about that. How does it look like to be with
Um,
Teresa?
I love that question. My inner octopus is always dancing and always
Mhm.
singing and always looking for not just the good but the truth. And so I think that's a really it's a beautiful way to live when I listen, when I don't get caught or enraptured by what I'm supposed to be doing in societal norm.
What is, yeah, what we do in societal norms, right? Which is interesting, and societal norms is also linked to I want to ask you so many things with regards to relationships. I know you're a bit of the relationship guru, so let's dive deep for the fun of it, right?
Right.
Not to show the whole world that everybody should go to Teresa and to have conversations about relationships. No, this is about having fun in understanding what it truly is to have a relationship. And I was reading into all the materials. And, you know, I see a lot of people having be, relationships because they don't want to be alone. And can we dive into that huge
Sure.
rabbit hole? Because what happens if you're in a relationship because you don't want to be alone? And it's, for me, it has two ways. It makes sense. If you don't want to be alone, you're in a relationship, you're with someone else, right? Because it feels good. But there's also the thought that immediately pops to mind. Oh, that is not good. When it's based on fear of being alone, you shouldn't be together then. What is your experience on this? How do you see this?
Well, relationship is a multi-billion-dollar industry, you know? So we have been taught that we're supposed to be in a relationship or we're not okay. And I disagree. I agree with you. There are, opportunities to learn and grow solo, and I think those are beautiful, and I think everybody should have those. And there are also opportunities to learn and grow together. And the theory is that relationships are what we get into to learn about and heal, hopefully, the deepest parts of us that need attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've learned, and I go at this from a neuroscience, from a cognition perspective, how our brains work, but there's also some woo involved in the
Some woo.
unexplainable woo.
Here's the woo-woo people. Yeah.
Unexplainable octopus woo, I think,
Yeah.
because it's brain chemistry, but our brain chemistry can only sort for survival, really, when it comes to this. So when we get that feeling, we call it the butterflies, that somebody is like the person, or this could be really something. We call it the chemical attraction. That is simply the neurotransmitters in our brain saying something's up here. Be alert. But when we come from a history of not secure relationshiping, that alert can feel like connection and love.
Mm-hmm.
Because we learned that connection and love are not, we can't count on it, right? So now something's up, and maybe it's okay and maybe it's not, but it's just an alert. And if we would learn that chemistry, that feeling of this person is really interesting, is simply an awareness and not necessarily a soulmate,
Mm-hmm.
then we can have more choices. And not that choosing a partner should be completely logical. It's not. It's
Right?
time.
Love is without thinking, I think. When there's love, there's no thinking, right? So you're
Right.
not in control, basically. Yeah.
Basically, because it's timing and availability, and and those brain chemicals and everything. And logic can kick in with, is this the right person to be with? Because our divorce rate, at least in the Western world here, being at or above 50%, and a lot of people staying together, even though that would tell us that maybe we didn't choose well, or we don't have the skills, we haven't learned the skills for clear communication to grow and continue something that started well.
So what about the people that are saying you're in a relationship to learn something? You already talked about that a little bit. I'm divorced, so I've had my relationships, and I know, and clearly I had to learn something, and maybe you can explain a little bit better that there's this trigger that is based on something of your own experience, which could be good or bad, and there, if it's bad, then you could say, well, you have something to learn, and this relationship is helping you to learn. So my question is, if you are aware of the fact that any relationship is a relationship to learn, what becomes different then? And would that create any different outcome with all the
Mhm.
divorces in the world?
That's a great question. I think our desire to pair bond is so strong. And our brains, the oldest part of our brains is the survival mechanism, the limbic system. So our brains are programmed for survival, not for connection. And so we see everything through survival. And if I have somebody with me, I feel safer. One of the most dangerous aspects in tribal culture is being ostracized, kicked out, or being lost from your tribe, from your herd, because then you have less ability to survive. So when we have someone that we rely on, we feel safer. Is that true for you or not true for you?
Back in the early days, yes. Now, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have evolved to have a more introspective infrastructure that relies on you, and you've got this. My goal in relationshiping, in helping people with relationships, whether that's corporate level boards or couples, I'm really fascinated with couples right now, is that we have the autonomy to be able to bring the best of us, the truth of us, into the spaces between us, and to bond, to mate, to be partners from there. What happens most of the time that I've seen is that we get into having to put out fires in an emergency situation with our relationships because we met and we are counting on that person being either what they were when we first met without evolution, or what we've counted on them becoming so that we feel safe from our own patterns. Mm-hmm. And neither of those work. They're not sustainable. No. But we try to build relationships of multiple decades on those like very unstable, non-foundational places.
And isn't then the most beautiful journey when you find out together that this is not the place to be, and you change your relationship into something that is more healthy, if I can say it that way, or more normal or better? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a big stigma around ending a relationship. And a lot of times that's happening because humans, we believe that we need to villainize someone so that we can justify leaving. Mm-hmm. So when we have villain victim, then it gets ugly. And that's when you have the big lawyer fees and all of those things. When we can do what I call a very elegant exit, we are functioning from, hey, I loved you, and there's a part of me that still loves you. It's just that that's changed. I know that we are friends. I know that we can do this better together. I know that on the other side of this conversation or this series of conversations, we're still going to be co-parenting. We're still going to be in connection for the rest of our lives, or the rest of our child's life, or whatever that looks like. And let's do this beautifully. That's so possible.
So why is it that the ex is always the narcissist? You already said something like, we create this attack so we can allow ourselves to be in a divorce, and it's always the other one. But it seems so strong when I look at that, right?
It's so strong. Yeah.
But why are we doing that? Because it would be so nice for all of us if we wouldn't be doing that.
Wouldn't it be? But what role models do we have of that?
I don't know.
Right?
We don't.
Yeah. We don't. We have the hyper non-realism of social media, of movies, of marketing. It's another reason to feel like we failed, or the other person has failed us. If I can say, Perry, that we're ending our relationship, you and I, because you're a jerk and you treated me terribly and you gaslit me and you were a narcissist, all my friends are going to go, oh,
Tressa, yes. This Dutch dude is really bad for you.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. So, your question's brilliant. You almost made me spit English breakfast tea all over my computer. Like because it's so It's too common. And when I'm working with couples, usually they're very high profile and we have an NDA, and they don't want anybody to know that they're having relationship problems because it could impact their earning potential, which is like what is going on in our world. And when we can have an elegant exit and it's very calm and we still are, showing up in public and we're friends, it gives people much less to spill tea about, to gossip about, but when it's a train wreck, we get more sympathy.
We get more sympathy, that's the thing. And we want more sympathy because it's so fucking difficult.
Right.
Right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we don't want to feel alone. So now we're feeling abandoned. We're feeling shame because we weren't able to hold this relationship together. We've been told that if a relationship fails, oh God, you're divorced, much less you're divorced multiple times, or like,
Yeah, it must be something wrong with you.
Wrong with you. Exactly.
You're making the wrong decisions every time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And if I can say, oh no, it's just that this guy presented as something that he wasn't. But the truth is, as we evolve and change, if we don't have the relationship tools to keep that limbic system with not activated, and we can just be clear with each other and loving and say what's real, if we have that, then we typically don't get to the heavy divorce in the first place. We can then negotiate a clear, beautiful, loving exit, or we can grow our relationship together and be together forever.
So, Tressa, this is something that I believe in with nonlinear thinking. I think our conditioning of thought is so strong. It's what we have learned at school. It's what we have learned in our society. And this is, for me, the nonlinear thinking is to disconnect from the laws of thought. Yes, there is the thought, but you are aware of the thought and you step out of that. And you open up the spaces between the thoughts, and that's, for me, nonlinear thinking. Now, if that's nonlinear thinking, how can we create here, and I didn't prepare you on this question, how can we prepare the ultimate nonlinear relationship?
That's a great question.
What comes to mind immediately for you then?
That it's easy and calm. The ultimate non-linear relationship means that we're just here, we're present, and what's coming up is what's happening, and we're not holding past pattern, past story against ourselves or each other, and we're noticing. So this is, I think, a part of why I'm really freaking good at what I do, is that I can see the stories and the patterns, so that if you can see those, you can't unsee it. And now you're responsible for it. Now it can't go unchecked, subconsciously controlling your life and your relationship, with you trying to make the other person conform to the patterns that you believe in, that you're not good enough, that we're not, we don't have value, we don't belong. And you'd be amazed, probably not, you wouldn't be amazed. Most people would be amazed to hear that very high level, very successful people, when I ask, do you know that you're incredible? Do you know that you change lives? Do you know that you are magical? They'll be like, no. And they'll tell me, I can barely sleep at night because I'm terrified that I'm not going to wake up the next day with the next big answer that I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
So we run around with these, these set of ideas that we were given before we had conscious ability to have consent over what we were being handed. We've taken on the burden of the stories and patterns that were given to us by the people around us, whether those were parents or guardians or teachers or, the marketers putting stuff in front of our face and on our cereal boxes. And so we're carrying all that stuff into a relationship together, and our stuff is different. And we don't talk about it. So nonlinear people, nonlinear thinking says that we have an opportunity to evolve and grow so much faster than having to unpack every trauma. We can be here, be present, say, this is what's true. We have the emotional safety. So I call it the trust pyramid. The base is presence. Just show up, just be fully here, non-distracted. And then we can build emotional safety because we're fully here. I trust you because we're fully here. Now we have emotional safety. And then on top of that, we have curiosity and playfulness. Now, Perry, you can ask me these crazy questions. right? So we have these three levels, and on top of that, the peak of that is trust. So we build trust from presence, emotional safety, curiosity, playfulness. Trust is built. So we have a pyramid that looks like this with trust at the peak. But what we try to live is trust at the bottom, as the foundation, and that's going to fail us every time if we don't have those other things. And that's come from 30 years of working with people at the highest level of leadership. That this place of being nonlinear means that everything's open to us. What's here? What's here for us? Otherwise, everything's working against us, including
now, I have $1 million question for you. Here
take
we
a
are. Here we are, a couple, and one is thinking, yeah, I'm doing the nonlinear relationship, right? I don't have any expectations. I trust the other 1,000%. I'm so happy with this. But there is the other one as well who needs to dance with you. And I remember so well when the first book of Eckhart Tolle came out, The Power of Now. And that was, I think, the number one question people were asking was reading the book, The Power of Now, or the other one, A New Earth. Was that A New Earth? People were asking, yeah, I totally understand it, but I want my spouse to understand it as well. Yeah. And then Eckhart would say, well, then you don't understand. So I keep thinking about that, right? It's to go into that nonlinear relationship space, or whatever you want to call it. There are two people that need to go into that space, and you don't want to convince the other. How? If you want to move towards something else, how do you do that?
Well, I think it's kind of rare, honestly, from what I've seen, that two nonlinear thinkers pair up. Typically, the nonlinear person pairs up with a more linear person because we feel like we need ground in a world that tells us we need ground. Don't fly too high, So when we have someone who is like, oh, I get it, I just need to be present, and I'm just like, I just get to be me, and I just get to breathe and listen and be aligned, we definitely want to share that. The best way that I know how to do that is to practice. And so I put people through prompts, like really easy prompts, and I'm doing some in-person speed dating with soul, I call it, events, the soul of connection, where we're learning to have connection with ourselves so that we can require the highest level of connection with another human being. But we can't do that if we're looking for that reinforcement from another person. If we're looking for our identity, our reflection from another person. We have to know who we are, what we believe in, what our truths are, what success is for us, what true love is for us, what a great relationship looks like for us, rather than saying, okay, now I found you, everything should just create itself, or you should supply that for me.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we get into a ton of trouble, and that's what most people do. Now, your question is about how do we help someone else understand what we understand, or what we're learning and we're excited about as nonlinear thinkers. I'll dance it out. I'll like interpretive dance it with my partner who is more linear than me, for sure. And I'll say, hey, can we try this thing? Can we breathe together? And if we have this prompt that I'm working on for another couple to try with them, can you and I try it? If you don't have a me in your relationship, you can just say, hey, can we take some time and just be together and notice what's coming up for us? Like truly, because we do not, as human beings, we're always outside of ourselves. We're always in front of ourselves. Like moving forward or putting on a show instead of being here. So what's coming up for you right now? Do you want to do a little experiment with me, Perry?
Of course.
All right.
Always.
So if we just take a breath together, and we're here and we're self-regulating and now co-regulating from our brain's perspective, and we take a breath, and I can ask you now, Perry, what do you notice when you look inside, when you notice what's happening in our conversation right now? What's coming up for you?
Curiosity.
Okay. Curiosity. I heard you say that you have curiosity coming up in our conversation. And when I hear you say that, I notice I feel really happy and excited to be part of your curiosity. Okay, so now how did it feel to be reflected and then responded to from what's true for me?
So nice, right?
Right. And so when we can make this a part of how we communicate, this is how we always talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are most of the time, because we're human, it's not an always, but we are going to be most of the time now clear, loving, compassionate, connected. And it takes us literally the idea of taking a breath. It's not some big process. We're just like, oh, I see you. You're my person. I'm connecting with you. I'm so glad to be here with you. I notice as we're meeting for the first time today, Perry, or as we're waking up together for the first time today, I notice I'm grateful to be waking up with you, that there's no place I'd rather be. And if you can say, I heard you say you're really grateful to be here with me and waking up with me, that like I'm not awake yet and that still makes me feel however it would make you feel. And then we start our day with the deepest connection and the deepest knowing of safety. When we have that deepest knowing of safety, then everything else gets better. We have more power to be the truth of us in the world with other people. I'm more effective in the world because I know I'm safe within my own self. And I know how to help my partner feel safe with me too.
Yeah. And how awesome would it be if that would be a little bit more the case in the world, rather than what I see a lot is that people make up their minds very fast, right? And we all judge. I get that. But they make up their minds so fast, and there is judgment, and there is irritation and frustration. And why not take a breath and don't think and just say something nice to start a
And just
conversation,
and
right?
it doesn't even have to be nice. It's just once we get the truth of ourselves in alignment, once we get that, then it's very difficult to be mean or angry.
Hmm.
The mean and angry stuff is functioning from the stories and the patterns that we brought in with us. And then we work really hard subconsciously to perpetuate the truth of those.
Yeah.
So if I believe that I don't have value, I'm going to work really hard to make sure that you reflect that I don't have value. And then you're the jerk for reflecting that I don't have value.
Yeah. And that's the same thing again with the ex-spouse,
It's a
right?
trap. It's a
That's what
trap.
we do. Yeah.
Yes, unless you know the tools, and the tools are so easy, and I call it 10,000-year-old technology, that we're using in modern ways, because I didn't invent this. This didn't come from me. This has been around since time began and people started interacting in healthy ways, which is like, oh, we don't want to kill each other. How about if we breathe and live together and make food together instead?
Yeah. And why not? Right.
And why not? Like
Why not?
right?
Yeah.
Without doing that, we have so much to lose. We have so much to gain by being in our truth and feeling emotionally safe and curious and playful with each other.
Um, in line with this, I want to ask you a final question that I always ask all my guests, but I think I already know your answer more or less. But imagine you can whisper something in someone's ear, and the whole world will hear that in their own language, all at the same time. So you can whisper one sentence to the whole world, especially in today's world, maybe even. What would you whisper?
It's easy. I love you and you are completely lovable.
And that's it.
And that's it.
And that's it. Wow. So cool. Can you imagine we already did 30 minutes almost?
It goes by so fast with you. I knew it would. I could take a month with you, Perry. So much goodness. Thank you.
And how interesting, right? To talk about relationships and to really dive a little bit deeper. Do you have a favorite book about relationships that you would say,
the
like,
book that
read
fell
this,
off,
people?
the book that first fell off an empty aisle at a Barnes and Noble bookstore in the States, and the book fell off the shelf, and it was The Alchemist.
The Alchemist. Yeah.
Mhm. And I think that's a really good entry level into relationship with self and others
Mm.
as a mythical construct, and something that we
Is
are.
there something you want to change in the relationship with yourself still? Is there something like, I'm not happy about that element?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm ever evolving, and I know that I teach what I need to learn. I think all coaches teach what we need to learn.
Hmm.
So I am also learning how to live my most full life from being present and knowing that this life is too short no matter how much time we get.
Yeah. Life is short. Thank you for being here, Tressa. Not just in the podcast, but also as a founding member of the Octopus movement, of course. And if you're listening out there and you feel a spark, please follow it. Nonlinear thinking is not a strategy, it's a kind of love, and it grows where we share that. And I truly believe that. And this is a great example for that. Thank you, Tressa. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you about relationships?
You can find me at the Soul of Connection or TressaYonekawa.com. And I'm Tressa Yonekawa on all the socials.
You can find Tressa. It's not a
You can
problem.
find.
It's Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so
The
much.
best. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.